Dragon Vios. I hope y'all are doing well. Welcome back to my channel, and once again, another review for Hazbin Hotel, episode 7. Hello, Rosie. Was it boy and roller coaster, as well as the fact we had a bit more world building going on, which I'll develop later into this video. And be warned of spoilers because there's gonna be a recap. Without further ado, let's begin. The episode starts off with the Hazbin Hotel crew listening to Vaggy's explanation. Surprisingly, they're taking the whole revelation that Vaggy was an exorcist far better than I originally expected them to, especially considering the fact that this was somebody who was trying to kill them every single year. However, Husk definitely adds more salt to the wound of the situation by blaming it on Charlie. Not completely, but he does grumble of the fact that whenever Charlie gets involved with Heaven, they get into more trouble than ever before. To be fair, Husker, as much as I love your character so far into the show, I think you need to pay attention to how Charlie's in her own situation. This was something a little beyond her own control. It's not her fault that everyone in Heaven was small-minded about what she's trying to present here, and she tried to follow their rules to a T. Speaking of which, our poor happy sunshine girl was locked up in her room, just crying away of the situation that's happened. Alistair, taking advantage of the situation, decides to go see her about it and acts a little bit smug. He soon reveals that there is a possible way of taking on the angels. Charlie was a little reluctant because she doesn't want to make a deal that's going to threaten lives, so at least give her some plus on that. However, desperate to save a hotel and everyone in it, she decides to take Alistair's deal. And once that struck, it definitely caused Vaggy to be filled with dismay at being disregarded her advice. However, again, the situation is pretty bad for them, so desperate times call for desperate measures. So while Charlie follows Alistair to get some help, Vaggy learns that Camilla Carmine is somehow responsible for killing an exorcist. And of course, the two of them go their separate ways, while Serpentious, Husk, Angel Dust, and Nifty were all just trying to understand what on earth was happening and getting ready for a big fight. So, as the group continued on, with Carmine and Vaggy having a straight-up talk, while with Charlie she finds herself venting her frustrations out to Alistair. Bless that man for his patience, 'cause oh boy did Charlie have a lot to say. She soon realizes that they're in Cannibal Town, and this is also where one of the overlords live. We're soon introduced to Rosie, the head honcho of Cannibal Town, as well as something of a motherly figure or lovable auntie vibe that you would get from her, especially when she listens to what Charlie has to say in regards to the situation. Of course, Rosie says yes and likes her moxie, and is willing to help out, but she has to jump through one small hurdle in order to do that. Meanwhile, Vaggy goes to Camilla Carmine and also tries to get the truth out of Camilla in regards to how to fight the exorcist. And of course, Camilla didn't want to really jump into things considering the fact of what had happened to the hotel and what the Exorcist army was going to do. But like Vaggy said, they didn't pick a fight with Heaven, nor were they willing to pick a fight. It was just their leader was a total freaking nut job. So, after reasoning with her, getting Camilla to see that even though the hotel was the main target, it won't be long until all of Hell's residents, including Carmilla's, are going to be under the Exorcist's blade. Upon hearing this, Carmilla helps out in the best way she can by sparring with Vaggie and showing the weaknesses and faults that the exorcists are known for, which can be easily exploited. This also triggers the song Out for Love, where it does take on a very good beat and, of course, amps up a training montage, a very small training montage, to Vaggie, resulting in her finally getting a pair of wings. A brand new spanking pair of wings. And meanwhile, Charlie tries her best to recruit the cannibals. However, that particular hurdle I mentioned earlier happens to go by the name of Susan, who is very difficult, a very entitled lady, and seemed to give Charlie grief. Charlie, not being in the right state of mind, finally curses out to the girl, and then Rosie decides to take her away just so Charlie can have a moment to cool down. Once that was settled, Charlie vents to Rosie about her situation and the romance that she once had with Vaggie and what she learned from Vaggie in terms of being an exorcist. This is where Charlie begins to question her feelings for Vaggie and if anything was real at all. Rosie, bless her heart, explains about the context behind Vaggie's actions and that Vaggie really was serious in helping out the hotel and truly believed in Charlie's dream. Once that was settled and regaining some confidence, Charlie goes back up and begins her speech, which introduces for Ready for This. Finally convinced of the battle that's up ahead, Charlie was able to lead the cannibals to the hotel and soon meets up with Vaggie again. The two make up and they soon discover that Serpentious, Husk, Angel Dust, and Nifty were all getting the place set up for battle, barricading, getting sandbags in, whatever was working. Charlie, of course, was very touched by this and was excited for what was to come. Nervous, but she was hopeful that and happy that there were still some people who were willing to support her dream, even if there wasn't a very good chance that they were going to survive the exorcist's attack. So yeah, this was one heck of an episode, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, the crew did not disappoint in Hello Rosie. We'd had a good introduction with Rosie herself, like a proper one, considering the fact that she had a bit more of a silent role in episode 3. And then, of course, just seeing Cannibal Town for the first time, and I like of how they're setting up the atmosphere for a moment, but somehow I have a feeling that the relationship with the cannibals does give me a bit of an uneasy feeling. They still trust Charlie, but at the same time, this feels like a place where you really gotta watch your back. As for Charlie herself, I feel like she has improved a bit since the beginning of the episode. She's been through a lot, and it is understandable of why she is so upset, and thankfully though, she was slowly able to overcome her doubts about Vaggie with the help of Rosie. I like Rosie's dynamic with Charlie. It definitely comes across as a much needed mentor that Charlie needs, especially after everything that hit the ceiling. As for Camilla, I also like the fact that she is a bit of a mentor as well. Like, she's still a cutthroat as ever, but I do like that she comes across as an overlord that can be reasoned with, as well as just see the reality of the situation. I do also like of how Vaggie sets up her game, and even though she still suffers from the aftermath of what had happened, it does feel like she has become the voice of reason that is needed, especially when it comes to Carmilla herself. And overall, I do like of how the trio, Husk, Angel, and Serpentious stuck around in order to get everything prepped up for the great battle, which just showed that
they are heavily impacted by Charlie's abilities and how they were brought together because of her. This gives some nice growth, and the only downside about this episode is the fact that I wish we could have had more episodes in season 1 to see the evolution between the three and see more character growth for each of them, but I still do like the fact that we kind of see it through actions. Out for Love was such a catchy song, especially highlights more of Carmilla's character. In the past, in Respectless, we've seen a little bit of it, but now we definitely have a bigger sense through it. While she is, again, a fighter, she also knows that you have to fight for a very good reason. Otherwise, if you're out for blood, you're never going to get anywhere, and it's not going to be pretty. So, I do wish it lasted a little bit longer though, so it definitely helps more of just getting into the salsa beat that follows around Carmilla a lot. And even the use of the shoes was pretty genius of being in tune with the song itself. Ready for this, I would say definitely gives an ideal, iconic Disney-like song. Mostly Disney songs like Mary Poppins, for example. The older classics when Disney was still getting up into its game. So for this one, it definitely gives off more of Charlie's steadiness of being a optimistic person again, because she was crashed and burned several times, and it is understandable with how it begins with her just being uncertain, being scared because she's been rejected before multiple times. So as the song begins to pick up, she also begins to grow more confident, and we definitely see that the cannibals are actually following her lead and recognizing that she's a very good leader. Maybe one that still has a lot to learn, but whether she's ready or not, she has to take on Adam head on, but at least she's not doing it alone. So these are my thoughts, and I'd like to hear yours. What do you think about this episode, and what do you hope will happen in season 2? Do a like and subscribe. This is Dragon Veo signing off.